Hey guys, what's going on? We're back with some more Destiny 2 stuff. Today we are bringing 5 changes that could help Bungie rebuild trust with the Destiny community. Before we get into it, I would just like to ask once again, if you are new to the channel or returning, if you could consider subscribing. It helps me a lot. It's free, and a lot of people who watch are not subscribed. So yeah, anyways, let's get into the first change on the list, and also just a little prefix for this list. A lot of these are, from a technical and game dev standpoint, are probably a tall order. So I just want to say that asking for these and me talking about these, it's really easy to do that. But I'm sure it's a lot harder to implement a lot of these, certainly with the struggles that Bungie as a studio has had and the devs as devs have had. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, and obviously understand that some of this stuff might take years to implement if Bungie is in fact doing it. But the point of this video is really just to spark a conversation, and that's really it, and get the community flowing with ideas. And a lot of these ideas are popular, but they're just the 5 biggest changes that I think would help build the most trust in the quickest way possible, which is certainly what Destiny needs right now. And by the way, these changes are in no certain order because we don't really know the depth of these changes until they happen, how impactful they might be to bringing up concurrent player counts, and again, just rebuilding player sentiment. So each change can have a different level of impact, sure, but again, they're not in any particular order. The first one is to just overhaul the UI once again. I feel like this is just a problem that exists in any game that's existed for as long as Destiny has. Shaders are probably the biggest thing on the docket in this sense. They're something that everyone uses. There's no way to search for them, and they of course recently changed the UI to, at least in terms of the look, with shaders. So every shader looks different. You might not associate each shader with the way it looks now, so it's even harder to find your favorite shader. And yeah, this is obviously a huge issue for people who really enjoy getting into Destiny 2 fashion, which of course with armor transmog in the game now is just endless. So certain stuff like this is very important to a lot of people, and it might be important to people who don't even have the game yet that might play in the future. So it's just a nice feature to think about. And for me, I'm someone who's played for a long time, and I'm sure there are plenty of other people out there. You have tons and tons of emotes and finishers and all that, and you would love to just have a way to search for them or to favorite them or something along those lines. That way you don't have to scroll through menus upon menus just to find the one emote you're looking for. A similar thing could be said for collections. Maybe you're trying to find one of your favorite ships that you deleted forever ago that you want to bring back out. Maybe you're trying to pull the Dawning event ship that gives you extra Dawning essence and you don't remember what season it's from. Just so many things that a search tab or search bar could solve with the UI. It just makes a ton of sense. This one is one that I've touched on plenty of times. If you watched my video, the Festival of Who Cares, this is essentially just rehashing it, but for all of the events. And I would really like to see a return of Sparrow Racing League. It's something that overwhelmingly the community wants to see in the game. Destiny 2, if you haven't played, or for some reason you've barely played, most of it is obviously the first-person shooter based. SRL gives a nice little break from that, and it's cool to have stuff in your game that, again, it's kind of like a mini game, right? And something that you don't have to take as seriously. You don't have to min-max for Sparrow Racing League, although there were like armor pieces in Destiny 1 that did increase like the boost that you would get from landing tricks and stuff like that. So yes, I guess there were ways to technically min-max. But, it's not like you're doing you're trying to max out your Dawning Essence by doing the activity that gives you the most. And it's an activity that maybe you've done dozens of times in the past. It's something different. And I just have so many cool ideas in my head of like what the courses could be for Destiny 2. And you look at something like Partition in Lightfall, and it's literally, it feels like it's made for Sparrow Racing League. Like, they have some stuff in the game already that would fit it perfectly. And I just don't understand why this, it seems like the easiest dunk in the world. But again, like I said, with most of these changes or implementations, they may sound easy to implement, but I don't know. So again, just a grain of salt for this, but to me, it's been years and years that players and content creators have been asking for this. And I mean, you could even leave cookies on top of this. You could bake, no pun intended, you could bake SRL into that event as well. Maybe you get a ton of Dawning Essence from doing SRL. And for the other activities, you know, I really don't know what else you could do. Fishing was such like a solid thing that they could bring back for something maybe like Solstice. And for Festival of the Lost, I mean, I like the Haunted Forest, Haunted Sectors, I think they're not great. And what I mean by Haunted Forest is actually they could bring back the Haunted Forest instead of the Haunted Sectors. Again, just to have a change of pace. But of course, you know, there are certain things that are sunset in this game, which is of course a perfect segue into the next change, which is just bringing back some sunset locations. We already got the sun rising of certain Destiny 2 weapons. You can use pretty much any Destiny 2 gun in the game now, as long as you kept it, or you can pull it from your collections. And it's a really cool change that they implemented, just because the sentiment around sunsetting was like, well, it doesn't matter. Most of the weapons we have now in the game are just simply way better than anything we could use back in the day. But it's just fun to see how these weapons from the past compared to the newest, hottest weapons, and so on. And you could do the same thing for destinations. Now, me personally, I think it's a cool idea to bring back just the campaigns from these DLCs, at least as a start, right? To, again, try to slowly patch the broken trust with the community. Whether it's just bringing back Red War and giving it a legendary campaign, as well as a normal version that you can do with old loot, you know, redone loot with new origin traits, new perks from that era of the game. Same thing with Forsaken. I mean, this just seems like the easiest slam dunk ever. We know that there are some missions that are from these certain DLCs, specifically, you know, Vanilla Destiny and Forsaken, that are still in the game. There's still content from these DLCs that's still in the game. Now, it's really just a question of whether or not it takes too much money to bring these things back, or if it's just out of the question, you know. It's something that they're just not considering at this time, and, you know, maybe once Frontiers is done, they'll think about doing it at some point. But I think, again, just another easy slam dunk. It doesn't have to be every single destination that's been sunset. It can just be one destination, and, you know, that would go a long way. Next, we have a problem, an issue that I could spend literal hours talking about, but thank goodness there are people like Dado around who have already done stuff like this, and he went through with one of his friends, Spencer, and did the whole new player, new light experience. There's a video that, of course, I will link in the description if you want to watch the whole thing. If you are a 10-year Destiny player or someone who's interested, I highly recommend watching it before you get into this game. And if you're someone like me who hasn't even thought about the new light experience, yeah, it is way worse than you think, which is why this issue, again, like I can talk about the small details and the issues with every single part of it, but the fix is gonna take so much that I can honestly see Bungie taking just an incredible amount of time to fix this problem, which is why I don't expect anything to happen soon. So again, I just like to reiterate that it's easy for me to talk about this, but for it to be fixed is a whole other issue. If Bungie were to pick one of these things on this list to fix within the next half of a year or a year, again, that's a start, right? I think it's realistic to hope that all of these things eventually get implemented in some way, shape, or form within maybe the next 3 years or so. which I think is a little generous considering the content model Destiny has, or a little less than generous. But anyways, the new player experience is just, it's horrid. And I don't constantly get new people asking me for help, but I do have someone who hangs out in my stream who was asking for help because, again, there's just so many things that Bungie doesn't tell you in the game to do. And I know some people enjoy a game that doesn't tell you what to do. You can do whatever you like. Elden Ring is a great example, right? It's a game you can literally play it in any order. You can challenge yourself as hard as you want. You can make it as easy as possible by just looking up a guide for everything. But with Destiny, there's a tutorial baked in, but the tutorial just sucks, right? And you can totally see why some new players become completely disinterested in the game with this new player experience. And either that or they become overwhelmed because there's so many intricacies to Destiny as a game that people don't understand. I mean, I'm doing some master dungeons to try and get myself and my contest dungeon team ready for Heresy's contest dungeon, and I'm talking about, build crafting and certain debuffs, and making sure I'm not stacking a debuff with a debuff in the master dungeon, right? And this new light in my stream is like, whoa, this is confusing, and I can totally understand that. Essentially, the new player plus is like you're training to be a line cook, and you have to make the perfect mushroom risotto on your first day for Chef Ramsay. Like, you're gonna mess up, you're gonna make mistakes, you're not gonna know what's going on, and Ramsay's probably gonna yell at you, right? I mean, that's the experience I would imagine if you were a new player that were to like immediately go into a raid or something, which is totally not what you should do, but that is something that the experience will tell you. It'll tell you to go do Salvation's Edge raid before you've even learned how to use your abilities properly. It's crazy, but yeah, again, I could talk about it forever. Go watch that data video. It tells you everything you need to know. And the final change is a really simple one, and one that makes a ton of sense. And that is to just bring some craftable weapons back into the seasonal fold. It doesn't have to be an insane amount of crafted weapons. Like, it doesn't have to be 10. It could be like 5, right? Something along those lines. Whether it's in Frontiers or somewhere down the line, just to scratch the back of people who enjoy that stuff. Because I don't know about you guys, but this has always been the case. We've always had a pool of craftable weapons and a pool of chaseable weapons, right? This was true just a season ago with Echoes, right? And it's still true right now. There are weapons you can craft in the game, and there are weapons you can go chase. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Having that diversity in how you obtain your loot is actually a good thing. This is also just an easy slam dunk because it's something it exists in the game. To me that this change is probably the easiest slam dunk on the list for sure. But that's enough of me talking about this list and all that. Let me know if you guys have a change that you would like to see. I know there are endless amounts of stuff that could be fixed or implemented in this game to make it better. And yeah, that's it. See ya.